Hello, everyone. How are you doing? This is Andrea Mason, your first choice, your global voice, alumna of Les Brown, and the CEO of Press Play Plan Life According to You. I am excited to announce this amazing opportunity of another podcast that I am hosting. If you haven't checked out on Spotify at 11 on Tuesdays. We're getting to relaunch the next series of it coming up in September. And it is amazing. So check it out on Spotify live. Here today, we are going to talk about mental health. Press play, plan life according to you. And today's episode is an introduction, and the theme is going from victim to victorious. Welcome, everyone, to Mental Health, Press Play, Plan Life According to You, where we break the cycle of survival and step into the strategy, the strength, and the self-leadership. I'm your host, Andrea Mason, your first choice, your global voice, alumna of Les Brown, CEO of Press Play, Plan Life According to You LLC. And today's episode is all about entitled From Victim to Victorious. I want to ask you something. Some of us, when we look at victimization, we think about the things of being victim of abuse or bullying. So whether you're the victim of abuse or bullying, we can also put in there the battles that we are facing in our own inner voice, in our mind. So this space is for you today and allowing you to speak freely and safely, to feel free to ask questions or any concerns that you may have. So I'm excited. So take a breath, sit back, relax, get your favorite beverage, a snack, or just even a notebook. I know, I'm old school. Get your cell phones out and take some notes and get ready to take a deep dive, a deep breath, and press play. And let's transform the mindset that keeps you stuck into one that will set you free. So in today's topic, we're going to talk about understanding the victim mentality. We're going to understand what the root causes are, how to break that cycle, and we're also going to review the script, rewriting the script. You know, that role that plays in our head from our external environments, our family members, naysayers, and friends, and so forth. And we're going to share real stories and make a real shift. You know, when I started Press Play, I talked about plan life according to you. And at any stage, at any age, you can change your channel, is what I call in my line of work. And so I want you to relax and take a deep dive. What does it look like? So for those of you who don't know, I am a former victim of abuse and bullying of every kind outside of my home. Mental, physical, emotional, sexual, spiritual, even the attack of my own mindset. And so what does it look like when we have that victim mentality? Well, for me, experiencing that, it was having self-doubt on everything that I talk about, everything that I say, anything that comes out of my mind, the thoughts that are in my mind or my head, that I'm fearful to speak up. It's usually being silent when you should be speaking. It looks like having the uncertainty, the unknown coming into play when things are not going your way. What do? We take it personally. Don Miguel Ruiz, my camera. Don Miguel Ruiz talks about the 4 agreements, about be impeccable with your word. Don't take things personally. Don't judge others and do your best. And so what does that victim mentality look like for you? Are you a victim of abuse? Whether it be physical, emotional, mental? Yeah, mental. Sometimes it's the verbal abuse that we think of, or the physical, but sometimes it's the mental. The constant playing of the reel of the past chasing you. I say if you don't face your past will continue to chase you. And how it shows up subtly in every single day, in every decision. Am I doing the right thing? Do I have that people-pleasing mentality? Do I want to help individuals thrive and make the best of their lives? When we look into that, we have to ask ourselves, what are the root causes? Where does that stem from? The root causes, could it be that of trauma, of abuse or bullying, or even witnessing it within amongst our own families and friends? Or even, might be shocking, to what we read, we watch on TV, or we hear from others. This can really be traumatizing. And for me, as an empath, as I heighten my empathy, it's really traumatic, pardon me. I'll never forget. I remember January 26th of the inauguration. I'm unplugged for those of you who don't know. So anything that I put into my mind, space, body is always of my choosing. So since 2015, I don't watch the news, TV, news, radio, or anything of that sort. I select what I put into my mind. And so when the world was making a decision and came to the decision, January 26th of the inauguration, I felt a thunderous bolt throughout my body. And come to find out later on that was what was happening. The decision was made. So we internalize these narratives, and sometimes we learn how to be helpless and helplessness. And what happens? Sometimes at times when I'm experiencing a traumatic situation or reliving a memory, I'm not sure which is real or not. Also is learning about how to break the cycle. Everybody says, Andrea, it's one thing to forgive, but how can I forget? I'm not asking you to forget. I'm asking you to learn and live and take away the lesson from the loss, the purpose from the pain, and the triumph from the tragedy. Having a heightened awareness of that first step to freedom. And what is that step? In my line of work, I talk about the achieving personal freedom is through the healing power of forgiveness. Forgiving others, for they not know what they do. But most importantly, ourselves, so we don't carry it on throughout our lives. Identifying the triggers. This is something that I think for me has been a work in progress, and understanding the responses. Some of you may have known, or new to the channel, welcome, and new to this podcast, welcome, that I am terrified of thunder and lightning. And it wasn't until, if you're a believer, I went to a spiritual guide who had told me this was the repercussions, the PTSD of living during the cartel in Colombia, South America, at 11 months old. I came to America 11 months old, weighing in at 11 pounds. But preceding that was what's going on. The war-torn drug zone era at its prime. And then we are going to learn how to shift the blame game and take responsibility and accountability. This is still difficult for me today, but it's a powerful transformation when you're able to say, you know what, my bad. I misunderstood. I made a mistake, or I wasn't thinking clearly. And rewriting that narrative, rewriting that script is truly powerful when we realize that, when we realize that we could take the pen in our own hands. This is my book, Victim to Victorious. When we could take the pen in our own hands and rewrite our story. You could do it right now. Even after this podcast, take some notes, start rewriting the personal narrative of your life. And also we have the ability to build your own definition of power. My mentor, coach, kindred spirit, and friend, Les Brown, says, other people's opinion of you does not have to become your reality. Paraphrased. Regain your power. Don't give power onto others. I talk about also, don't let your emotions be your masters. Let them be your messages. And making that shift and taking those tools and allowing your emotional intelligence be balanced and go from resistance to resilience. It's a beautiful thing. We talk about real stories and real shifts. Listening and guests insight are welcome to put in the comments. How did you go from victim to victorious? Are you going and battling something right now? This is a safe space. Feel free to comment. We talk about this in our own lives of what are the stories we're telling ourselves. I'm reminded by someone I had coached, and I was talking to them, and we were rehashing a situation from their childhood. And when we slowly peeled back the layers of my 8 steps towards freedom and success, going from victim to victorious, from choosing to press play, they came to realize that the narrative they told themselves was not real. The behaviors were, but the narrative, the statements that were stated, were made of their own mind, their own creativity and imagination. And once we were able to break that cycle, rewrite that story, we were able to move forward to our success. And what I love to do here is also provide some statistics that are really prominent when it talks about the opportunity, if you will, to thrive into mental health. Today's days and age. In my days of serving decades in social work and psychology industries, mental health was taboo. Now it's so common, which is kind of frightening because it's how many check boxes we want to check. But learning the impact that it takes, whether it be in your childhood, your adolescence, your young adulthood, or even in your adult, in your home, on the playground, in society, amongst your peers, and in the workplace. So check this out. According to a study that was published in the Journal of Aggression, Maltreatment, and Trauma, up to 80% of adults who've experienced prolonged childhood bullying or abuse develop a persistent victim identity, which then can lead to anxiety, avoidance, and difficulty forming healthy boundaries. Interesting. But the good news is that victim identity is not permanent. It can be unlearned, and that's what today's all about. 80% of adults who have not solved or had closure experience prolonged, persistent victim identity. Kind of makes me wonder, because as I'm doing my business, as I'm growing, every now and again, I'm looking for validation from someone. I'm looking for affirmation, confirmation. And is this okay? I'm the CEO of my own business. I have to remind myself I'm not a victim anymore. And I have to remind myself my personal mantra: follow your heart, not the herd nor the hurt, for success and joyfulness are on the other side. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to take this time and share this out with people. I'm making a movement. I am being the voice of change, the face of change, pardon me, of mental health. I'm being the voice for the voiceless, the sound mind to silence, and an advocate for all those experiencing mental health. Mental health is not stigmatized. Mental health is not a disease. Mental health is not a disability. Mental health is a chemical imbalance, or aiming to what we could do to solve it or heal it or get to the root cause is unlearn what we've already learned. And if you're an adult, we're not talking an overnight success. We're talking about decades upon decades that we have to rewrite our narrative, look at where we've been, be grateful for where we are, and thrive to survive and strive with great pride in the future. Ladies and gentlemen, this closes the first segment of Mental Health, Victim to Victorious, Press Play, Plan Like According to You, and Go From Victim to Victorious podcast with yours truly, your host, Andrea Mason, your first choice, your global voice, alumna of Les Brown, and CEO of Press Play, Plan Life According to You LLC. Check out the links below. I have an online course, Resilient and Rising, one of many. And Resilient and Rising is the debut of my chapter with Les Brown and friends, The Comeback. And I welcome your support. Like, share, and subscribe. Find me on all social media handles: Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, my YouTube channel, and my website right here, AndreaMasons.com. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, and have a wonderful time. We'll see you soon. Be well.